Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on this planet. I'm Elena Marin, the chair of the ARCS board, and I'm so happy to be here with you today and to thank our partner, the Northwest Film Forum, for hosting our Romanian Film Festival, the second edition online, but the eighth edition, because we started in 2014, as you well know. And also to welcome our partner, Arizona Romanian Film Festival, and their first edition coincides with us. We put together this festival. And of course, the ARCS branch in Detroit. And we are live streaming now, so you can go back and revisit, watch again the moments you enjoyed most for our Zoom conversations. And today, I'm so pleased to see Andrei Dăscălescu again, because we met in 2018, I think, in Seattle, when he was our special guest at the Romanian Film Festival, and we presented then two of his documentaries. And we're talking a little bit before we launched this meeting, the fact that at that time, what was truly touching me, because I had seen his documentaries before the festival, was how people reacted. And I watched the public watching his documentaries and saw tears in their eyes as they were looking at Constantin and Elena, Andrei's grandparents, interacting with that truly touching love for each other and for their grandson. And of course, for Planeta Petrila, Andrei's second documentary, which received the best documentary award at Sarajevo and the audience award at TIFF, Transylvania International Film Festival, in 2017. A documentary that was meant, and I think it succeeded in changing Romanians' understanding of what happened with the miners at the beginning of the 1990s. The mineriads, we all know, they were manipulated politically and used as a tool for closing peaceful protest in Bucharest. And what's more important is that Andrei received two more prominent awards for his most recent documentary, Holy Father, the Special Jury Award at Sarajevo again, and another audience award at Astra Film Festival in Sibiu in 2020. And I realized that, Andrei, you know, all your documentaries have something in common, and that is a powerful emotional appeal. For example, Constantin and Elena, with a glare of nostalgia for their youth and your childhood, is a touching representation of the ordinary, everyday life of two elderly ones who love each other, but who love you even more. And Planet Petrila is also about compassion and understanding of the challenges, hopes, and moments of desperation in miners' lives. And I saw you on Facebook talking to an audience after a screening of Planet Petrila, and you defined this concept, compassion, that is an emotion exactly like love. And my first question to you is, if you can describe for us the emotions you went through while you were making Holy Father, your most recent documentary.
Hello, everyone. A friend told me that I have a magic jar of emotion, and every time I make a film, I go to this jar and I take some emotion out of it, and I get everyone impressed and everyone very emotional in my screenings. I do like to do that. I do like to make films that come from my own truthfulness in a way, so from my own heart. And this is especially true with Holy Father, as it is a very personal film. It is about myself. about me becoming a father and trying to connect with my own father. So what I expect from the audience is to have an open heart when they watch the film. So definitely then I have to have an open heart while I make the film. And to answer your question, you know, this was a quite difficult process. I think it was maybe even easier while I was shooting it, and it became harder afterwards. I mean, it was not easy, but you know, the fact that I guess many of you already watched the film, so you know that the film starts with the pregnancy test, and that is the real time, real live moment when Paula and we found out that we are going to have a child. And this was totally unexpected, and we never talked about having a child or anything like that. So it was a complete shock. And that's quite close to the moment where I got the idea to make the film. And the fact that I knew that I'm going to make this film about becoming a father, and the fact that I knew that I want to document connecting to my own father and preparing to become a father myself, helped me have some structure in these 8 months. It was 8 months full of questions and fears and doubts, as I guess, you know, every new parent has. But the fact that I was also concentrating on making a film helped me have at least you know, a timeline, sort of structure. Emotionally, it was very hard, especially to visit my father 2 times. And in the first visit, as you know, if you watch the film, to fail in connecting with him. I would say that that was the hardest part of shooting the film. Fortunately, in the second time, things went a little better, and I think I got the chance of having a father and of being a son. I gave him the chance of being the father before becoming a father myself, and it was much better. But then it was also very hard to edit this film. I did it alone for a while, a long time, until I reached a rough cut, and then I was joined by a co-editor, Ștefan Pârlog, with whom I also worked on Planeta Petrila. And you know, the scene where I talked to my father from the first visit, for example, was a scene that I couldn't bear to watch when editing. So you know, when we come to that scene, I would always say, okay, let's skip this, or you try something and show me. And then when Stefan wanted to show me what he has done, I would say, let's watch it tomorrow. And it was very hard to watch it.
I see what you mean, and it's true. In terms of the structure, I read one of the reviews from Cine Europe by Ștefan Dobroiu, who wrote an excellent review of this film, and he was saying that as viewers, we don't know how constructed this documentary is and how many repetitions and rehearsals are behind these interactions. And I was thinking of that structure actually, how many hours you recorded and left out, what scenes. Are there major things that you, in the end, painfully had to leave out?
Well, I'm happy you mentioned this review, because I thought it's quite funny that you know, a film critic would think that there is anything staged in this documentary, which is so you know, honest and intimate. But I took it as a compliment, because what we did maybe a little bit better than in my previous films is that we really took time editing. This was also because we submitted to festivals like Sundance, IDFA, you know, the big festivals, and they didn't take it. So you know, we had the fine cut, rough cut version that we were submitting, and then when we got the, you know, the answer, then we basically gained some little more time to edit more. So and we had these breaks in between editing sessions. So I think this film is, in terms of editing, is the best version that it could be in. So this is why, I think some critics think that maybe some scenes are staged because they seem too good to be real, but they are not. Obviously, everything is just how it was. I'm not a fiction director. I would not be able to direct, a character in such a good and a natural way, definitely. And to go to your question, if I left something out, some big scenes, I think not. So what's happening there in the relationship to my father is that I when I go there in the first visit, and when I leave from home, I am very focused on getting answers. And I think that this is the key, to my preparations or to my reconnection to my father, the answers, the questions, and my father's answers. And that proves to be, false. It's a dead end, but in a good way. So in the second time, hai, lasă să vină puțin. Lasă să vină puțin. It's my daughter who wants to say
Your
hello.
daughter, yeah, we're talking about her.
Paula.
And she said it.
Okay.
And
Paula took her back, but
yeah.
she didn't hear me when I told her to let her come because she's crying that she wants her daddy. Sorry. In the second visit, I realized that it's not about the questions and the facts that happened in the past, but it's more about spending time and getting to know each other and having these experiences together. So when he opens up in the second conversation, in the second visit, I stop him. I don't let him give. When he starts giving the facts, I realize in that moment that I don't want to know all the details, all the gossip. So I stop him, and I realize that actually what we achieved through the fact that he opens up is more important than what he has to say about the actual facts.
Yeah, and you did a wonderful job showing that kind of interaction that speaks volumes beyond words, beyond asking questions and giving answers. And because you mentioned earlier that you would not make a feature film, I have this question for you as a specialist, as a documentarist. Why there are so many tons of feature films dedicated to the father-son relationship, but not that many documentaries? Why do you think that is?
I mean, while making this film, I looked for and I found quite a few of documentaries also about the father-son relationship and the daughter father,
exactly.
and so on. But I think it's easier to make fiction in a way. It's if you have a troubled relationship, and normally when you want to make a film about it, it's not a perfect relationship because that would not be an interesting film. So when you have a troubled relationship, I think it's most times it's easier to make a fiction film based on the on your history.
Yeah, I see that the plot. You have a plot right there. Oh, here you are.
So
Una, hi.
you saw her in Seattle when she was 9 months old. Now she's almost 4 years old. 3 years and 8 months.
Yeah, nice to see you again.
So this is the baby that you see in the end of the film. It's not such a baby anymore. It's already big girl.
Yeah, that's true. Cute. Watching Holy Father, I felt that you, as a gifted cinematographer, you were looking for something extraordinary, something miraculous, which could have justified for you your father's choice of becoming a monk. And there are some very delicate and symbolically loaded scenes. And I'm thinking of a cat chasing a butterfly, or that giant shadow on the wall of the church, or even the steam coming out of Father Kalinik's mouth. It's so cold, and you see the steam getting out. What exactly were you looking for? Because obviously you were searching for something, filming the road on Mount Athos, or the mist crowning the peak.
Well, I don't think there is anything, as you said, exactly. I think when I'm making a film, I'm in a way getting into a mood, and I shoot, what I think would be good for the film or good for building the relationship to the character. Because sometimes I shoot and in this case, I shot a lot of things that I knew that they will not be used in the film, but I shot them because my father told me to shoot them, like whole ceremonies. I've shot hours and hours of church ceremonies, and I used 2 shots, in the film. But I didn't want to upset him, so I shot everything he told me to shoot. And yes, the shot with the cat, for example, I think it's a metaphor of the whole relationship thing with the cat trying to catch the butterfly and not succeeding, and also the climbing on the mountain, because as you know, we don't reach the top. So I think this mountain scene is exactly the metaphor for the whole making of this film, and reconnecting to my father, because we go on the mountain, we have this experience together, but we don't reach the peak. And it's exactly how I feel about reconnecting with him. Of course, we gained something, we got a little closer. I went over some of the things that were haunting me from the past, but it's definitely not the peak. It's not some miracle that happened and resolved all the problems in the past.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I will open the floor now for comments and questions from our audience, because I know that there are people who want to talk to you about this film. Truly powerful. If you open your mics, please, and address directly Andrei.
Andrei, thank you so much for being here. You have many fans here in Seattle. I wondered if you would please talk about the pacing and the location. I know your father was located there, but I think it adds, both the slow pacing and the location adds so much to the depth of this story.
Yeah, it's like Elena said, I think each and every shot that is in the edit means something to me, and I hope it means something to the audience. It's not necessarily the same thing, of course, but I think a documentary film should be, in the first place, should be a cinematic experience. And I try in all these 3 documentaries that I've made, and I'm happy that probably it's the Seattle festival is the only festival that actually showed all 3 of them. In all of them, I try to make a cinema work. So nothing is by accident there in the edit. And I think it's in telling a story, it's as much in the words as it is in the silences, and this is very true for this film. And I tried to make a little bit of a montagne russe of rhythms and feelings. So, for example, after I tell him that he's going to be a grandfather, and he basically leaves, and there is this shot where I follow him from the back, and then it's cut to the church bells at night, so it's and then it's cut to something silent. So I try to make this juxtapositions, I think it's the word, in a way that works and that gives feeling. So I truly believe that the form of something, not only a film, but in this case a film, the form should have a meaning. It's not just a form. It should take part of the meaning and help you get your message to the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. You were very effective. It was a tremendously moving film.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So again, going back to the editing process and the decision making process to end up with such a great documentary. I invite another one of you, maybe a comment or a question for Andrei. Yes, Irina, please.
I'd like to ask, when you choose your characters and you get to talk to them, how do you talk to them that they open up? Because there are some very difficult subjects to talk about, and you have to be very sensitive, and at the same time you want to be a meaningful movie. How do you talk to them? How do you convince them to open up?
I think that's a whole process. It's not again, it's not an easy answer. And funny enough, I think the process of getting my father on camera was very similar to getting the miners on camera, because miners in Planeta Petrila and miners in general are very much against any sort of television or camera, and it was difficult for me to get them to accept me. And I think the key word is patience. I had a lot of patience with the miners in Petrila, and I had a lot of patience with my father and the other monks in Athos. And it's a process. You cannot go there with a camera and expect that you would be shooting something useful in the same afternoon when you arrive. In this case, for example, I went there. I talked to the head of the monastery, to get permission. I explained what I'm doing. I started shooting exterior shots, and then slowly getting into the church, but always staying somewhere hidden, not to put the camera in the face of any monk. So it took me a few days, for the monks to get used to me being there with the camera before starting to shoot conversations, for example, or going into the kitchen to shoot some scenes. And with my father, it was the same. So to him, I must admit, I didn't tell him, look, I came here to make a film about us, about our relationship. I alluded telling him something very specific. So as I'm a filmmaker, I came to visit you, and of course I brought my camera because I'm in this special place. And this is why in the first few days he was more the director of my shooting than myself. He was telling me, he was bringing me to this hill where I can get a general view, and he would tell me what to shoot, and I did it. And this helped make a connection. And slowly then I turned the camera more towards him, and I started having conversations on camera with him, with me behind the camera, of course. And I think, I slowly let him understand what I'm actually doing, that I'm making a film about becoming a father and our relation, not a film about, a monastery in Athos.
I see it's like a process of initiation, both for you and for them, for you into their life, way of living, and for them into what you are doing in a way. And yeah, for many of us, actually, Mount Athos will remain a terra incognita. And I read another excellent review by Jovana Georgiovska. And she was saying that actually the glimpse of life on Mount Athos that you are providing in the film is an extra note of honesty and moderation. I truly love this phrase, how she put it, because obviously you encountered challenges and while filming there and trying to observe Father Kalinik and the way in which he lives, so different from yours. But what was the most, I would say, rewarding part of filming there?
I mentioned this in our final conversation that there was a scene that I shot and the sound wasn't working. And this is true. And that was a scene that I felt very sorry about. He had just done laundry, and he was hanging the laundry to dry, on this string outside in a beautiful olive garden. It was really magical scene, and in that time while he was doing this, he was putting the laundry to dry. He started telling me how he became a monk, and after shooting the scene, I realized that the sound recorder was not on. The batteries that I had, they were new, but they were all bad, so the batteries were off. And I realized that I will not be able to use this scene, but in the same time, so many scenes were working out in an almost magical way. So the fact that I didn't follow him with the camera at some point, and the fact, just to give you this example, that I didn't stop recording when he leaves from the first conversation, and I see him leave. I don't do the focus even, because I was so broken when he leaves from this first conversation in the first visit, and I don't follow.
I think we have a bad connection now, or it's only me. Andrei, can you hear us?
Yeah, I think it's frozen for me. I don't know for the others.
Yes, Andrei is frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very windy in Seattle too. I don't know if it's Seattle or, oh, he's back. Andrei, you froze for a bit. So
if you can go back a little bit, because we lost him. Okay, here you are. Turn on the sound again, because we lost you. And if you can.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry. So I think it's my internet. Yeah, so I was giving this example of the shot from the first visit, the final shot of our conversation when he leaves, and I don't stop the camera and I don't follow him with the focus. And that's one example where I could have stopped recording and followed him with the focus, and I love these few seconds of the empty shot and out of focus. And I think this gives out in a way the way I felt in that moment. I felt broken, with no focus in a way. So that's an example of the magic when things worked. And there are times when things didn't work, like the sound recorder in that scene that I mentioned earlier, and I hope you got it before I got interrupted. But also some things that worked so magically. Also, for example, the swimming scene. When I left the camera to shoot, I didn't have a tripod with me, so I put the camera on a stone, and I went and swam with them. And my phone was also next to the camera. So because the phone was losing and catching signal all the time, the sound was again broken most of the scene. But it worked exactly in the moments that you see in the film. and those are the key moments, and that's the only good sound from the whole 30 minutes of shooting, and it's exactly what I needed for this scene, when I tell him that he cannot know if I'm a good swimmer and all that, so there was a bit of magic in making this film, and maybe some of it came from the place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's believe that it came from that place. Yeah. Please do take this opportunity and address Andrei questions and comments.
I have a question, Andrei. Thank you so much for agreeing to be here with us. We loved your film, Planeta Petrila, and we loved getting to know you in Seattle when you were here. It feels very special to have you back. My question is, how do you feel after the film was, done, and after you went with the film, in different festivals, you showed it to the world? Has the wound, between generations, and I think your story speaks a lot to all of us, the way in which we are not truly relating to our parents in Romania, especially. I feel like I feel like maybe the issue of parenthood comes up now. So can you tell us a little bit more about, fathers and sons, but also, parents and children in Romania, and how they relate and how they heal this wound that we all have, I think.
Once in every couple of days, I get a message on Facebook or Instagram, from people who have watched the film and who felt very, very touched, and sometimes inspired, to contact their own parents or sons or daughters with whom they have a broken relationship. This feedback started quite early in making the film, when my co-editor Stefan told me that he hasn't been talking to his father as much as he did in these days of working on my film his whole life. So he talked more with his father in the months that we worked on the film than he did in his whole adult life. So I think in this way the film inspires people to connect, to try to connect or reconnect to their own parents. And when we, as you can imagine, it was a very difficult time to launch the film, because it was finished just when the pandemic was starting. So it was very hard, actually, for me, that I missed the audience screenings. So there were no audience screenings, before September. But the film had its premiere in Sarajevo in the summer, and I was really anxious to get to feel the audience, and I like that Ileana mentioned that she likes to watch the audience watching films, and this is what I do with my films. I don't watch my film; I watch the audience watching the film, and I really missed this until finally last autumn I got a few chances, very few, not as many as I think I would have wanted. But I got a few chances to meet audiences, and one of the last screenings was in Timișoara, in a festival where somebody came and hugged me, after the film, and told me that he has already watched the film on HBO, but came for the screening just to meet me and give me a hug, So that kind of things, happen a lot in every screenings and in messages that I get every few days. So that's nice for my film, but I think also it's quite sad because it means, that so many families in Romania have a similar story.
Oh, thank you, Andrei, for sharing this with us. I wouldn't have thought that it's such such a big issue, actually, because they take the parents' presence for granted. I mean, I discovered myself doing that, and we should not. But I noticed Adriana raised her hand a bit earlier. Adriana.
Yes. Hello, thank you, Andrei, for this film, and especially for your vulnerability. And we say it here, or you hear it here in the States, that it's the white male gaze that it's present in films. So it was very nice to see a vulnerable white male telling his story. So my question kind of refers at your method of your artistic practice. You already used autoethnography in 2 of your films, or at least from my perspective. And how do you perceive the difference? How do you see, what's the difference in working as a film director, like being more objective, for example, maybe in Planet Petrila, and then to have this personal involvement in the filmmaking process? How do you work with these methods?
Well, maybe it's important to mention that when I made my first film, Constantin and Elena, I didn't have any method, or I didn't have any theory behind my method. It was mostly instinctual, everything that I've done there. I think up to some point I didn't even know what an observational documentary is, and now I know that Constantin and Elena is an almost perfect observational documentary. Then with Planeta Petrila, I think the fact that the film is more playful in form and style and rhythm, I think that thing I took it from the character. As I mentioned earlier, I like always that the form is not just a form. It's not just a cinematic structure or anything like that, a recipe. I like it when it connects to the actual content. And in Planeta Petrila, the content was the crazy artist, Ion Barbu. So because he is such a creative person and out of this world, I wanted the film to have these little scenes that are not classical in a documentary way. And I think Holy Father is somewhere in between my 2 other films, and I would say Holy Father, I would say it's my best film, because it takes the best out of the other 2 that I made. Unfortunately, it's not as successful as Constantin and Elena or as Planeta Petrila in terms of festivals and awards, but I think that's also to do with the pandemic. But to sum up, I'm not a very theoretical person, so I'm sorry if I cannot answer very specifically to your question. But I just follow my instincts, and apparently I have good instincts.
Sorry, and one more question. Was the title translated in Romanian?
No.
Okay.
When we applied for funding and all that, we translated the title, and the translation was Tatăl Nostru, which literally means our Father, but it's also the name of the prayer, Holy Father. So I think that was a good Romanian title. But the story of the title, you didn't ask, but I will tell you anyway. The story of the title, people try to see what's behind this title, and it's so simple. It's the way that I saved my father's phone number in my phone when he became a monk. So this was a bit ironic from me, a bit funny. It's when he became a monk and I got his phone number, I saved him as Holy Father. So it's such a simple story, and I like it, that people speculate about who is the Holy Father. Is it me or is it my father? And it's just the name in the phone, in my phone. But yeah, I think it's a proper title, and I knew the title from the first day. So from the day when I shot the pregnancy test, I knew that this will be the title of my film. and we decided not to translate it to Romanian because of this, because of the story behind the title. So in Romania, it's still Holy Father.
Nice. I mean, the title is ambiguous enough to open so many meanings and, trajectories for searching for meaning for viewers. I would like to invite anybody else if we can have a last question. Yes, Julie, please.
Hi, Andrei. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Otilia. Thank you, Ileana. I just have a comment. I do not have a question, but I would like to just offer you a little anecdote, and that speaks about the powerful intergenerational and transgenerational effect of your work. It just happens that I teach Romanian language and culture at Arizona State University, and several years ago I showed Constantin and Elena to my class, and they're obviously much younger, and they have different consumption practices. And while I tried to offer them a wide breadth of Romanian cinema, I noticed that your movie was really impactful. So this speaks about the humanity of your work and the way in which it connects with people across generations. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you very much. I had this revelation with Constantin and Elena that I traveled a lot with the film. And even in South Korea or Japan or countries that I think culturally don't have anything to do with Romania, and I am imagining that the countryside in these countries, or Germany, doesn't look at all like the countryside that you see in Constantin and Elena. And I had this revelation that everywhere I went, people told me it's like I watched my own grandparents. So I was surprised of how universal, two grandparents are, and I think that's how I realized, that some things are universal. And as Planeta Petrila is not just a film about this mining town in Romania that no one would care about outside Romania or even in Romania. And in the same way, Holy Father is not just about me and me becoming a father and my own father. So thank you for the comment. And I think that's the key of my work.
Excellent. Andrei, we cannot wrap up this conversation without asking you what you are working on right now.
Well, I have, it's after making, as I said earlier, this was a very hard project for me, emotional wise. So this was hard to shoot, it was hard to edit, and it was even hard to wait for these screenings because of the pandemic. And it's even hard to go to the screenings and to do the Q&As because it's all so personal, So after making this film, I said, that my next film is gonna have no emotional involvement from my side, and I have two projects that I have on my desk, so to speak. One is about a traveler whose name is Radu Păltineanu, and he's a Romanian, but he studied in Canada. And he crossed the two Americas on his bike alone, and it took him 3.5 years. So it's a road movie with his adventures that he captured on his phone and GoPros and all that. And I have all this footage, but it's a huge amount of footage, and I'm trying to realize what I can do with it, that it is not a typical road movie, adventure movie, but that there is something more to it, and I'm sure that there is something more to it. And that's one project, and the other one is a collective video diary of the pandemic. I got this idea when we were all in lockdown. And I, as a documentary filmmaker, I felt this urge to document this because it was so out of nothing, you know. I mean, we were having a normal life, and then 2 weeks later we were in a lockdown all over the world, you know, unprecedented thing, and something you could have not imagined weeks earlier. So I wanted to document it, but how could you do that if you're not allowed to go out of your home? And you know, we were scared of the virus. I was scared of the virus, so I wouldn't have the courage to grab the camera and go to the hospital and shoot. So I got this idea to ask several people to make a video diary of how they're coping with lockdown. And I have several of these journals. Again, every one of them, you know, is hundreds of hours of footage. So it's a very challenging project to edit. And you know, this could have been finished by now, but this is a project that I imagine that nobody wants to see, as you know, as we still have the pandemic going on. So I think this, you know, maybe 1 year after the pandemic is gone, I make this film, and we will enjoy watching it to remember how we coped with the lockdown. But this is why I didn't make I didn't make it yet.
Yeah, we see and we understand why, and we hope to have these two movies at any of our next festival editions, and with you, Q&A in a theater would be lovely. And thank you very much, Andrei, for joining us and talking to us about your work. I'd like to tell our viewers that tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We have a Q&A with Radu Muntean, the director of Întregalde, and we are looking forward to having you with us again. And then on November 16th, also at 9 a.m., we'll have a Q&A with director Valeriu Andriuță. And so please stay with us, join our Q&As, and thank you very much for being today with us. See you guys. Thank you, Andrei, again. Pa.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.